Anyone who knows their basic geopolitical history will know about the League of Nations and its utopian ideal of a new international order. But it is just one manifestation of a broader ambition occupying the minds of many intellectuals of the day. In the summer of 1924, another organization with such ideals is born. H.G. Wells, Herbert Hoover, and the Prince of Wales are in attendance for the founding of the World Power Conference, the Technological League of Nations. This is Between Two Wars Season 2, a chronological summary of the interwar years, where we cover the zeitgeist, the culture, the technology, the art, the sports, and much more in the era when, for better or worse, humanity ushered in modern times. I'm Indy Neidell. There are signs that the Soviet Union and Germany might finally enter the international community. The Soviets have signed a trade agreement with Germany and Britain and opened negotiations with Japan to normalize relations. And for Germany, the Dawes Plan has been agreed upon by the Allied powers and put into effect, giving the country's battered economy a chance to start fresh. Meanwhile, the British Prime Minister has called on the League of Nations to accept Germany and the Soviet Union as member states. This is still a long way off, though, with neither present at the Olympic Games in Paris. Germany wasn't invited. The Soviets never attend. In other news, a new civil war has begun in China. The Second Zhili Fengshan War isn't looking like it will be just another warlord conflict. It threatens to change the whole balance of power in the region. And going back to London, a famed utopian author reviews his visit to an imperial spectacle. H.G. Wells is visiting the British Empire exhibition in the London suburb of Wembley. Remember from last time, the British government has organized this grand event to show how vital their empire still is in the development of global humanity. Such a claim naturally interests someone like Wells. Alongside establishing science fiction as a genre with novels like The Time Machine and War of the Worlds, he has built a reputation for himself as a futurist prophet. Before the Great War, his writings foresaw the development of things like fighter planes and tanks. He's even predicted the development of a colossal bomb utilizing atomic energy, whatever that is. Much of his work is a somber warning on what the future may hold. But he is overall a utopian. He believes in the power of technology and rational thinking to drive the progression of human civilization. Like many of his contemporaries, these beliefs go hand in hand with an interest in eugenics, although it is not his most dogmatic belief. Since the Great War, he's moved away from writing novels and become more of an activist/journalist. He's also more uncertain about the path to human progress being a definite inevitability, but he still writes forcefully how society can work to better civilization. In his essay this summer, entitled The Impudence of Flags, H.G. Wells reviews his visit to the Empire exhibition. He is mainly critical of it, declaring it absurd and carrying the unpleasant smell of the white man's burden. He is, though, full of praise for one event at the exhibition, writing, "A real attempt to see the world as one economic whole has been made. A frank admission of the need for organized world unity and world cooperation underlies the activities of this particular gathering. The particular gathering is the World Power Conference, imagined by its organizer to be the Technological League of Nations. We've already seen in this series just how important world leaders consider energy to be in lighting the path to modernity. In The Harvest of 1920, we saw the late Vladimir Lenin make his famous declaration that communism is Soviet power plus the electrification of the whole country, kickstarting a plan to build 112 power plants across the Soviet Union. As I've said, nowhere near this number will actually be made, but some huge ones will, including the Dnieper Dam. The delegates at the World Power Conference in Wembley this summer, they come from different ideological backgrounds. Many of them are more interested in older forms of power, like coal. Still, they too believe in the utopian potential of what they call the world power economy. The idea for it comes from Scottish electrotechnical engineer Daniel Nicol Dunlop. Dunlop is one of those eccentric intellectuals, quite common right now. He co-founded the British Electrical and Allied Manufacturers Association in 1911 and is now its director. But he also believes in alchemy, the occult, and other mystical ideas. He also spent some time in Ireland in his youth, rubbing shoulders with eminent intellectuals and even making it into the pages of James Joyce's Ulysses, referred to as Dunlop, Judge, the noblest Roman of them all. And like many intellectuals right now, he believes in a new international order, one that will be above petty national politics. He originally wanted a World Economic Conference, which would bring all the world's politicians together to decide upon unified economic policies. Realizing this was perhaps too utopian, he has settled instead for a sort of technological League of Nations, a forum where data on the world power economy can be shared, standardized, and debated. In the foreword to the published transactions of the conference, he lays out his ideals. A vision of the nations of the world after the Great War revealed the need for a conference of practical men, scientists, engineers, manufacturers, financiers, and politicians to consider the utilization of the forces of nature in the light of a new internationalism and to attempt to discover a means by which the nations of the world might be preserved from the constant actions and reactions of past history and might all advance together. 1,700 delegates from around 40 countries have gathered in the Palace of Engineering's conference hall at the Empire Exhibition. It shows how closely tied new ideas of international progress are to older ones of imperialism. And Dunlop shares the belief of the exhibition organizers that the modern British Empire is a vehicle for global development. But the conference is still a truly global event with a truly global outlook. Delegates from independent Latin American and Asian countries are in attendance, as are outcasts Germany and the Soviet Union. Although the Soviets do consider the whole thing a tool of capitalist industrialists, of course. Anyway, the Prince of Wales and heir to the British throne, Edward, opens proceedings with a speech June 30th, and the conference runs until July 12th, with around 400 papers presented. Altogether, they create a standardized inventory of the world's energy, resources, and infrastructure. One thing that surprises the European delegates is just how far ahead the United States is here. New York City alone produces more electricity than the entire United Kingdom. Chicago has just 3 power plants, but generates more energy than London, which has 77. Having said that, Switzerland is incredibly efficient in its hydroelectricity, using waterfalls to generate twice as much as the United States per capita. There are also talks from industry bosses and politicians. American Secretary of Commerce Herbert Hoover talks about government policies in relation to power development and distribution. That should give some hint that not every discussion at the conference is entirely apolitical. Representatives have wildly different ideas on whether power infrastructure should be public or private, and about the best means to generate electricity. The Soviets obviously sit firmly on the planned public side and generally favor hydroelectricity. American and British delegates all strongly sit on the private side and believe firmly in coal-fired plants. Others prefer a mix. Proceedings also see broader geopolitical questions being played out in the context of energy. Canada leads the Dominions in firmly demonstrating that its economy can stand alone from and even rise above Britain's. But despite the differences, the conference is a huge success. Delegates approved the creation of the International Executive Council to serve as the executive committee of the World Power Conference. Dunlop is made chairman. It will organize future events, and its central office in London will act as a forum for information between engineers across the world. The council will also meet next year to draft a constitution. As the conference occupies the minds of intellectuals, common people across the world are also seeing the promises modern technology brings. This September, the first aerial circumnavigation of the globe is completed. Since 1918, airplane enthusiasts have been obsessed with such an achievement. On April 6, 1924, 4 modified Douglas torpedo bombers, renamed Douglas World Cruisers, set off from Lake Washington, Seattle to claim this glory for the USA. Led by Major Frederick Martin, the expedition boasts 8 meticulously selected crew, 4 pilots and 4 mechanics, in the planes Seattle, Chicago, Boston, and New Orleans. They fly westward around the globe. Seattle is quickly lost in a crash over Alaska, although its 2 crew members survive. The 3 remaining planes journey on across the North Pacific, and everywhere they go, they receive enthusiastic receptions. When landing in Siam, they even meet royalty, who offer to show them a decapitation in Bangkok. They politely decline, citing time commitments. Moving across Asia, they reach Europe around the start of the summer, flying into Paris on Bastille Day, July 14th. There, they get the grandest reception so far, arriving to cries of "Vive la France! Vive l'Amérique!" They meet celebrities, dignitaries, and even accompany the French president to the 1924 Olympic Games. 2 days later, they are off again and spend some time meeting royalty in Britain. After that, they're on the home stretch. Unfortunately, a mechanical failure means Boston has to come down in the sea near the Faroe Islands. Again, the crew survives, and Chicago and New Orleans press on. Finally, on September 28th, my birthday, 175 days after they set off, they arrive back in Seattle, achieving the first aerial circumnavigation of the globe. The Douglas Aircraft Company, who created the planes, soon adopts the motto, "First around the world, first the world around." It is a defining moment in the history of aviation, witnessed by people across the world. But in contrast to the optimistic times in Europe and the States, there's tragedy in Argentina this season. Hundreds of indigenous tribespeople have been massacred by police acting on government orders. There has actually been a lot going on in Latin America in general in these years, most of which I'll have to get to properly another time. But the Napalpi massacre definitely deserves mention now. In 1911, the Argentine government established an Aboriginal reserve in the Gran Chaco region. It came after decades of military expeditions, first in the Patagonian steppes, and then the Gran Chaco, known as the Conquest of the Desert and the Conquest of the Green Desert, respectively, right? Ethnic cleansing is actually a more accurate way to describe these expeditions than conquest. The Argentinian government ordered these lands to be consolidated and cleared for settler communities. This led to thousands of indigenous people being killed and tens of thousands displaced from their homes, well, their ancestral homes. Napalpi is a settlement in the Aboriginal Reserve. It's around 225 square kilometers and populated primarily by the Kom and Mokovi peoples. And it is supposed to be a model for incorporating indigenous people into the modern Argentinian economy. In reality, its inhabitants are treated as a disposable workforce for cheap cotton by government-backed businesses and ranchers, working from sunrise to sunset and forced to sell their crops at a heavily discounted rate. As the cotton harvest is seasonal, many on the reserve travel to neighboring provinces to work in sugarcane mills to make more money. But under industry pressure, the government bans indigenous people from leaving the reservation in 1920. This has been the catalyst for a protest movement springing up among the Kom and Mokovi people. Details are sketchy, but it seems that it starts off with demonstrations and the killing of livestock. Things escalate when a local shaman is killed by a policeman, which then prompts the retaliatory killing of a French settler by angry tribespeople. In response to that, the governor of Chaco orders a brutal suppression of the troublesome natives this summer. On July 19th, in the main village of Napalpi, 130 policemen opened fire on gathering protesters armed with little more than spears. Women and children are in the crowd, and any survivors have their throats cut with machetes. Over the following days and weeks, police and ranchers hunt down any survivors who might bear witness to what they saw. Estimates vary for the amount killed, but they range from 200 to over 500. It is an event that Argentinian authorities will silence for decades, which is why the details I've given here are so vague. However, it will be remembered by indigenous Argentinians and passed down across generations, becoming a foundational moment in their modern identity. For now, here are some more light-hearted notes to end the summer. On August 28th, the John Ford-directed film The Iron Horse premieres, a Western epic about the construction of the first transcontinental railroad. Ford is already known for making Westerns, but this is his first major film, as well as being a major success. Another cultural debut this season is the Little Orphan Annie comic strip in the New York Daily News on August 5th. The strip tells the story of Annie and her newfound life and adventures after being taken into the home of Daddy Warbucks. Annie is a plucky red-haired girl in a red dress with the catchphrases, "Gee whiskers" and "leapin' lizards." And one of the first masterpieces in experimental films is premiered in Vienna in September 1924. Conceived by French avant-gardist Fernand Léger, Ballet Mécanique captures the rapid sensory experience of modern life, with its frantic scenes all edited in an extremely mechanical manner. Beyond that, I honestly do not know how to describe this film, so you'll actually have to watch it yourself. There'll be a link to it in the pinned comment. Do not watch it if you are prone to dizziness or if you have nervous tendencies, okay? There's your warning. And with that warning, I will end the summer of 1924. For decades to come, scholars will pick over the mutual relationship between modernity and technology. Looking at the events of this season, you can see why. I began with the World Power Conference and I ended with Ballet Mécanique. Two things seemingly worlds away, but both the products of era-defining modern technology. Not only that, but the promises of technology at the very forefront of their creators' minds. You could analyze such a thing for hours, but really, the conclusion is simple. We are traveling through the machine age. If you would like to learn more about the birth of aviation celebrities, then you can watch our Season 1 episode From Aerobatics to Terror Bombing right over here whenever it comes up. And remember that you can find merchandise featuring my face, Spartacus's face, Astrid's face, Anna's face, and many more non-face related stuff over at our collectible shop, the TimeGhost collectible shop, the TimeGhost Barracks. The revenue goes straight into making content like this, so links should be popping up anytime soon. And speaking of revenue, our TimeGhost Army member of the week is Yorick Crone. Because of people like Yorick, maybe Yorick Krona. Because of people like Yorick, insert Shakespearean joke here, we can keep churning out content like this with all the efficiency of a 1920s hydroelectric plant in Switzerland. And remember the words of H.G. Wells, because they're important now in 2021 as they were 97 years ago in 1924. We all have our time machines, don't we? Those that take us back are memories, and those that carry us forward are dreams. Cheers. To the future.